Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. Today's video is going to be another discussion topic, this time regarding the future of Temtem post 1.0 launch, and a bit of controversy that has sprout out regarding some of the statements given by the devs brought to my attention by Justin6 on Twitter. Now, I do think this topic is actually far more nuanced than a lot of people are giving it credit for, and hopefully through this video, I can shed a little bit of light on all perspectives. Now, what am I even talking about? Well, basically, there's been a divide amongst a lot of the community members regarding the path in which Crema plans on taking post 1.0 launch. A lot of people thought that post 1.0 we'd see various expansions that would add new islands, new Temtem, and stuff to that effect. However, judging from a couple of statements that we've seen from Ya, one of the lead developers, that doesn't seem to be the case. So to start, we have a statement here saying the following. There will be new content, but it depends on what you consider content. Then, in response to this on Discord regarding future content updates, Ego-sun asks about new islands, new Temtem, story segments, etc., and Ya responds by saying, "That's what I meant. When people talk about content, everyone thinks of new islands and new Temtem, and that's very unlikely." Ya also goes on to say, "If you're the type of player that needs periodic Temtem and islands, we're not going to be able to give that to you, but some are happy playing the game for many hours without new Temtem or islands on the horizon." And they also state, "That's why we're going to add lots of features and keep adding them. The game will not die at 1.0. So there's a few things to break down here and a couple of points that I think should be made clear. Firstly, they use the term unlikely, not impossible. So while not 100%, it does seem to be the most likely route that they're not going to be adding these, but not set in stone. Secondly, the game will continue to add features and different ways to play, but as of right now, there are no plans for islands and new Temtem post 1.0, so they're not going to abandon the game. So the thing for me is, like, I can actually see both sides to this, and I'll start with the player side. So as a player of an MMORPG, you kind of want the game to keep adding in new features, like they said, new areas, in this case, new Temtem, and more. This is what keeps you coming back to the game and makes coming back feel rewarding and not stale. Having the same select few Temtem could cause a fall off for many players, as typically, MMOs are constantly adding new content to keep their player bases active. That said, on the developer side of things, Ya actually brings up a really good point in this comment here. What people don't understand is that even if we were up to add new islands and new Temtem, that wouldn't be enough for the people that are complaining right now. Doing a new island is a lot of work, 9+ months of work. You wouldn't neither like to wait 9 months for new content if that kind of content is the only thing that drives you to play the game. It also brings more problems to the table. Are we going to make you pay for that new island or Temtem? If we do, the community is divided, PvP is divided too, and some people won't have access to the new stuff. So from a developer perspective, I can definitely understand the apprehension behind having the game basically become a cycle of new Temtem plus new island every 6 to 9 months, and the game will basically be dead during the in-between stages and very active during the first couple weeks of every new update. As of right now in early access, most people just come for new island updates, complete it, and then leave, which isn't the type of retention you want to have on a fully launched MMO either. So I do think that the game needs to be able to stand and keep its retention on its own merits and features, and if anything like a Gen 2 of Temtem becomes a thing, it should be seen as a bonus rather than the only reason to come back. Now, for me personally, at first I was like, what? They're not going to add any more Temtem? That kind of sucks. But after reading the back and forth, I can actually understand both perspectives here. And in my opinion, I think the best answer lies somewhere in between the two extremes. Instead of having Temtem only rely on new islands and new Temtem, or completely shutting out the idea, I think a happy middle would be if the game focuses on firstly getting its core mechanics down and keeping retention up on its own merit, and then maybe adding a small amount of new Temtem over time here and there. Instead of putting them all on a full-scale island, they could perhaps be relegated to some sort of dungeon mechanic, or there could be more mini islands or something like that. The down below could even act as some sort of randomly generated area where these new Temtem could spawn, or they could just be added to already existing areas. Instead of them dropping like 30 new Temtem every 6 months, we could see something like 1 or 2 added each month into the mix, sort of like they do with League of Legends and their champions. This of course will also depend on what kind of money they're making via the season passes and cosmetics and stuff like that. I do think though that there should be a sensible compromise that keeps competitive from being stale, but also keeps it realistic. Finally, the last screenshot I'm going to share here sort of has to do with the mandate of Temtem and states the following. The core idea of Temtem is to build a classic adventure game with a focus on a story campaign, but with online elements added around it. And this is in response to the idea of comparing it to seemingly endless MMOs like WoW or Terra. Now, this statement actually gives me a lot of insight into what Temtem is, and from this paragraph to me, it seems that Temtem isn't really meant to be an MMO, but rather a monster taming RPG with MMO elements, rather than a full-scale MMO title. This makes me wonder if Temtem 2 could ever be a thing, since that would have its own like sort of region and story, or if this is just going to be a one and done sort of deal. Anyways, all of that said, as usual, my opinion is somewhat mixed on this, what else is new, but I'm curious to know yours. Let me know in the comments what you think about this and whether or not you agree with the devs, or do you want the game to continuously add more and more Temtem and Islands, or do you have a similar opinion to mine where it's like, hey, maybe there's some sort of middle ground that incorporates mutual benefit here? Also, let me know how you feel about the game basically being an RPG. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on the whole idea of the game mainly being an RPG with MMO content sort of sprinkled in. We've already known this since Temtem's been out, but I do think it's an interesting point of discussion as well. That said, if you are a fan of the monster taming genre, definitely make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at GymLeaderEd and check out our monster taming Discord. Special thanks to our patrons, especially Jim Hamilton and Steel Case, and with that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.